Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Welcome to the SDG 101 series, an initiative of the 𝗬𝗏𝗍𝗶𝗏𝗏, which is also known as the Regional Development Community Berhad. I am Professor Datuk Dr. Asma Ismail, the Ibnu Sina Professorial Chair in Medicine for the International Islamic University, Malaysia, based in Kuantan. I'm also the President of Academy of Sciences, Malaysia. And today I will be bringing the topic on transforming towards sustainable, smart agriculture. Okay, this is the way forward: sustainable, smart, ethical agriculture. Okay, what is the question that we want to answer is that what exactly is sustainable agriculture? Sustainable agriculture means practices that are intended basically to protect the environment, to promote biodiversity, to manage water use wisely, to maintain and improve soil fertility, and minimize pollution of the gases, right? That will affect climate change. And that is sustainable agriculture. And smart agriculture means is the use of technologies like Internet of Things, IoT, sensors, location systems, robots, artificial intelligence, basically on the farm. And ethical farming, people are now very conscious about who are the workers involved, and do we take care of the workers that are involved in the entire agriculture value chain, not only the farmers, but those in the entire value chain, end-to-end value chain of the agriculture industry. All must be taken care of with good living conditions. So, okay, we can also ask the next question: what if we don't care? What if we do not move towards sustainable agriculture, right? Let it ride the way it is now. So let me share with you some of the environmental impacts if we continue to not to be bothered about moving to sustainable agriculture. Just pay attention to the red bars. If you look at the greenhouse gases, agriculture as it is now occupies 26% of the global greenhouse gas emission. As the population continues to increase, the red bar will continue to rise, right? Already the land use, 50% of global habitable land, minus the ice in the polars and the desert areas, we have 50% of all the global habitable land is now used for agriculture. In terms of fresh water use, drinkable water that we all need, right? 70% of drinkable water actually has gone to agriculture. And you talk about eutrophication, 78% of global ocean and freshwater pollution is there. Agriculture industry with the pesticides, with the soil erosion has created silt, eutrophication, and the pesticides have polluted the water 78%. And if you talk about biodiversity, this is interesting, right? Of all the animals that is there in the world, 94% of all this mammal biomass actually is livestock to feed us, right? Only 6% are wild mammals. So this is the kind of question this is the kind of scenario that we are seeing today. If we don't change by 2050, things will get worse. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm saying here is that at the end of the day, food actually lies in the heart of trying to tackle. If you've got problem with climate change, you've got problem with reducing water stress, pollution, restoring lands back to forests or grasslands, and protecting of the world's wildlife, what is the main problem? Food is the center of that problem. So we need, therefore, to address the agriculture problem fast. So what would then be the solution to agriculture? If you now have a solution to agriculture, it has to reverse all the negative things that I have mentioned about what agriculture has done to the global challenges of agriculture. So the solution to agriculture basically has to deal with using less energy, less fertilizer, less pesticide, at the same time lower the levels of greenhouse gases, and at the same time be able to cope with climate change. Right? So the solution then lies with sustainable, smart agriculture. In this way, farmers will now be able to grow crops in the desert and actually use all the abundant and clean resources like solar power, like the seawater, basically to now grow food. And what is important is that all technologies must now be maximized, and we must now create new but doable technologies, right, for use by the farmers, or what we call the tomorrow's agropreneurs. And smart agriculture, therefore, need to re-engineer the entire value chain, not just looking at small areas of agriculture, but the entire value chain. Because if you want to make a change, a systemic change in the smart agriculture ecosystem, we need to address both the demand side and the value or supply chain side, right? Because you cannot simply use technology just for the sake of innovation, but we must use technology to improve and address the real needs of the consumers. So the question then is, how do usage of new technologies give hope to the food scarcity problem? All right. These are some of the examples, right? Using disruptive technology for sustainable and ethical agriculture. We can do this by saying, okay, produce differently. You can have the technology to help produce the same food differently but using new techniques. Or we can use new technologies to bring food production to the people, to the consumer. And when we do that, we are increasing the efficiency in the food chain. We do not undergo a lot of transportation to bring the food to the people, though that means less greenhouse gases emission. Or we can also incorporate. This is a time of collaboration. This is not time of working in silo. This is a time to use now the technology in other industries to have now this incorporate cross-industry technology and application in agriculture, right? So if we talk about producing differently using new techniques, we are talking about hydroponics, algae feedstock, bioplastic, which is today. But tomorrow, we are talking now, or in the future, we are talking now about producing using new techniques. How do we now change the desert into doing this for agriculture to grow food? How now do we undergo seawater farming? So that will be the future. In terms of new technologies to bring food production to the consumer, the best way is at the moment now vertical or urban farming. But tomorrow we are moving to genetic modification of the food. We are now also, because I said 94% of all the mammal biomass is livestock for feeding us. Livestock here means the cattle, the chicken, the sheep. But tomorrow is now undergoing cultured meats. That means lab-grown meats. They are meat, lab-grown, but removing all the negative part about red meat, the triglycerides and all that is all removed. So that now we are eating healthy meat. But the gene is coming from the cow. We are talking about 3D printing. This will be the next level where whatever you want to eat, steaks or whatever, is all 3D printed. And we will now come up with substances that can now be able to recreate the food like vegetables, tomatoes, fruits, all that. But we do this now by 3D printing. That will be the future. In terms of incorporating cross-industry technologies, this is a time where we can now spray the pesticide using drone technology, Internet of Things to control the fertilizer going into the plants by data analytics, and moving now currently to precision agriculture. But tomorrow we're talking about applying nanotechnology, applying artificial intelligence, food sharing by crowd farming, and also applying blockchain to now make sure there's transparency in the way, especially when we're talking about the halal ecosystem or the halal supply chain. This is a time to also use blockchain so that there's transparency in every step, every process that we are now producing the food. So basically this is the concept of vertical farming, right? Farms and agricultural operations will have to be run differently using technological advancement like robots, sensors, artificial intelligence, big data. So all these advanced devices will now allow farms to be more profitable, to be more efficient, to be safe, because now you can control what are the pesticides that is going in. And not only that, to be halal, you can also create organic or create halal ecosystem, because you're controlling the end-to-end value chain of this entire vertical farming to make sure that the vegetables and the fruits, etc., that comes out from the vertical farming is halal. So these are many things that can now be done with vertical farming. And this is to share with you how we now using hydroponics. But tomorrow we are also using aeroponics, where with aeroponics, as you can see, mist of we just spray mist to the roots of the plant. So there's no more the need for soil, there's no more need for a lot of water, a lot of fertilizer, because everything is now pumped and by mist spray to the roots of the plant. So you can see here where I show you a picture where just roots are hanging. There's no soil, there's no other things that we're used to seeing. So this is growing the vegetables. All the new concept, as we see now, bringing food closer to the people. This is in California, where you can have coffee, tea. All this is in the huge greenhouse, and as you are drinking your coffee, somebody else will be harvesting the vegetables that you need. So essentially what is happening here is that we are bringing food now closer to the people. There's no need for transportation of food. You can now go and harvest the vegetables and whatever that you need, and then you bring home. They weigh it before you leave the greenhouse, and you can now have your vegetables, fresh vegetables, every day if you want to, right? Okay, that is the world. Let's come to the Malaysian scenario. Let's talk reality now. What is happening here in Malaysia? So up until 1970s, Malaysia, as you know, have relied heavily on the rubber industry. But an international decrease of rubber requirements led to depression of rubber prices, which set back the economy of the country. And what happened? Tun Razak, at that time, the second Prime Minister, came up with the Green Book. All right, and this Green Book was implemented, Buku Hijau, the Green Book, was implemented in 1974. Now remember, this is 1974, and the idea at that time, the leaders of Malaysia in 1974 was there to make Malaysia self-sufficient agriculturally through subsidies, encouraging farmers to increase their output. What's missing here is the word science and technology. But look at the aspirations of the Green Book. It also says to bring the food closer to the people by encouraging Malaysia to grow their own food, to keep Malaysia green and therefore less carbon emissions. The Green Book also emphasized the use of land to its fullest, meaning to optimize the use of the land with short-term crops, even it require clustered agriculture, livestock breeding, etc., to optimize the use of the land. And the next key word in the aspiration of the Green Book is to diversify, not just to depend on one crop, but to diversify. By planting vegetables instead of just rice and rubber, we now need to plant other vegetables as well as corn, long beans, chilies, livestock, etc., that we have now diversified. If this was the idea in 1974, but today with the urbanization, you see now even the Malaysian population is requesting that food be diversified due to the increase in income that the people have. So basically, sometimes when we go forward, it's better also to look at history. Time also for us to revive, perhaps not to revive the aspirations of what is needed by the Green Book, but this time around to have injection of science and technology. Why do I say this? Because look at the challenges in the Malaysian agriculture sector. We still have this old practice and of lack in productivity and improvement. These old practices that we do. So you can imagine the average yield per hectare is lower than any other country. And because our agriculture is so labor intensive, we are so much dependent on foreign workers to now continue to work in our farms. Not only that, we have a fragmented supply chain. The logistics and storage complexity does not look at the supply chain that we have. We just need to have improvement on that. And then we have limited export opportunity because the food, the standard and quality of food that we produce is not consistent. So as a result of that, we cannot export some of the food that we have grown. Then we have the problem of the aging farmers, right? 91.5% of our farmers are all above 40, mainly in the 60s, because a lot of the young generation do not find agriculture to be sexy enough. So they're not coming in to work in the farms. So our farmers are aging, and yet we are so dependent on them to produce the food. So with urbanization happening, who's remaining in the rural area to actually now produce the food that we need? So this is the question we need to ask. And even worse, we are so reliant on imports for agricultural input. Why? Because we are importing 90% of seeds. Now, look, everybody is saying Malaysia's soil is so fantastic that we have no problem. We just throw anything and it will grow. well, we can't throw simply anything because we don't have the seeds, all right? So we are importing 90% of seeds of the plants that we are growing in this country. We need to address this quite fast. And then we are also, with all the livestock that we have, we are also importing 70% of the animal feed. So ladies and gentlemen, in addressing the change in Malaysian agriculture, you know times have changed since 1974. The land use patterns, the lifestyle of Malaysians, the living conditions are all not the same as in 1974. Malaysians are now becoming more and more urbanized, with more people living in the high-rise buildings. And we are also becoming more obese. We are among the obese population in Southeast Asia. We are also aging, all right? So with the advent of obesity, Malaysians have also changed their diet preference. If you look at statistics now in the World Bank report 2020, Sowing the Seeds, we now find that Malaysian households are spending now about 3 times more on fruits and vegetables and more than twice as much on breads and other cereals rather than just rice. So Malaysians are shifting from just eating rice alone. So in short, the rise of the middle class with a higher income bracket, Malaysians now demand a change in the food ecosystem, and they also demand for diversity. And also Malaysians are now also more concerned with, especially with the changes that is happening with climate change. We are more concerned with, are we practicing sustainable agriculture? And we are also more concerned, are we practicing ethical agriculture? Then we are inundated with COVID-19, which is an unprecedented global crisis. Why? Because for the first time, the whole world, we are faced with an unknown that we have no prior reports or no study to refer to in how to tackle and solve the problem of COVID-19. And the impact of COVID-19 on the economy is basically disruptive. It disrupts the entire supply chain. It reduces revenue of the country, makes a lot of business go bankrupt, retrenchments, a lot of job losses, weakened economy that we are now seeing. And basically, the agriculture and forestry sectors were heavily impacted by COVID-19 because approximately 33% of those employed in fisheries and aquaculture sectors lost their job, and 79.1% of farmers and fishermen experience income reduction. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the agriculture industry. This is not a place where we can afford work from home. Work from home concept does not apply to the agriculture industry. The people need to be out there in order to produce the food. So as we move forward post-COVID-19, I think it's very apparent, as Einstein would say, we cannot do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. We definitely need to create a systemic change in the agriculture industry. And what do I mean by systemic change? A total overhaul, a total transformation in the way we perform agriculture in this country. So Malaysia is now moving. We realize this, and a lot of clever Malaysians now are saying, okay, we need to now move forward. We are moving now to digital agriculture, which could possibly be the game changer that what we need. But ladies and gentlemen, digital platform alone is not enough. The next question you want to ask is, what exactly do you want to place on this digital platform? So therefore, there's still a need to plan end to end in moving agriculture up the value chain. And to move the agriculture sector, this can no longer be done by Ministry of Agriculture, by one ministry or the agencies under it, like MARDI, for example. It must now be a concerted whole government approach to address the gaps. This is the era of collaborative effort, because we need to address both the demand side and the value supply side. The value chain supply side. So the demand side and the supply side needs to be looked into, and we have basically to re-engineer the entire value chain of the agriculture sector. So with that, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.